What's up, you fine human specimens? Now, in this video, I'm going to walk you through the advanced sales psychology that enabled me to create and build an average selling rate of 3 million per year for myself, selling coaching, consulting, online courses, and masterminds over the past few years. And these concepts that I'm about to teach you and share with you did not just form overnight. This formed over a very long period of time, and really through the process of me conducting and taking over 3,000 sales calls to this point. So this is some pretty cool and deep shit. I haven't really seen anyone else talking about this around in the marketplace. So I really feel like this is going to enable you to level up your game in sales, negotiations, and even just life in general too. So if you are a sales rep, an entrepreneur, even a coach wanting to sell more of what you have, then this is really going to help you out. So make sure to watch this video in full to really grasp the holistic approach to what I'm about to teach. But yeah, so let's get into it. Now, what I wanted to discuss is a concept of conscious selling, okay? And this is really derived from my deepest curiosity in life, my deepest passion, my deepest, skill set of what I'm really good at understanding. And that is how consciousness works and how energy works within our universe and how we can actually apply it into our everyday life in something like sales and persuasion, ethical persuasion. So when we're looking at this concept, first we need to really grasp and understand that, this principle and this concept is derived from universal law, because when we operate with universal law, we allow ourselves to start flowing and swimming with the current instead of against it all the time. And you'll understand how that applies to you as I go through a few key principles here. But we need to understand that, the fundamental law of the universe is really energy. Everything operates on energy and consciousness, okay? So when we can understand those bigger picture concepts and bring them into our everyday practical life, we're going to skyrocket our results like nothing else. So when it comes to conscious selling, there's a key critical factor that we need to understand, and that is that there's many levels or dimensions of consciousness that is available to us, right? So if you're unaware of the topic around consciousness, consider consciousness like awareness or higher intelligence, right? And we can either be operating through life at a really low level of consciousness where we're unconscious, where we're living out our life unaware of reality and how we work and who we are. And, that's typically where we're residing at a very low energetic level where everything's a fight, everything's hard, and we can't figure out how to master this human game that we're in. But when we enhance our level of awareness, when we enhance our knowledge, our understanding, our intelligence for who we are and how the world operates, how the universe operates, then we basically start to transcend all of the little games that we humans create here on Earth, right? Because we're coming and approaching them with a higher level of understanding and awareness, which really allows us to level up in all areas of life. So when it comes to sales, understanding that there's many dimensions of consciousness, the key with sales is that it's a people game, right? Because all you're doing, if you're creating a sales page, a landing page, a VSL, like a video sales letter video, if you're on camera talking, if you are on the phone or on a Zoom call, taking sales calls, trying to win a deal or a negotiation, understand that at the end of the day, you can have all the strategies and the techniques and the tactics, but you're speaking to another fucking human being on the end of that. They're actually receiving what you're saying and they're taking in what you're saying, and it's basically going through a bunch of different biases and filters, and the information that you're presenting them with is interacting with their mind, body, spirit complex in a very unique way. So in order to enhance our ability to sell and ethically persuade others, we absolutely have to master our understanding of what is a human being. How does the mind, body, spirit complex work? How do humans actually take in and receive information? How do they process it? How do they gain understanding from it? And then how do they make decisions based on what has come in and what they've actually processed through, right? So we need to understand that at every level of consciousness, people behave differently. People make decisions differently, right? And when we're at a lower level of consciousness, we have preset filters and programming in which we make decisions from. Then as we continue to rise through the levels of consciousness, we start to make decisions very differently, based on different principles, based on a different filtering system in how we perceive and receive information, and then how we act on that information. So what you need to really master as a coach, an entrepreneur, as a sales rep, as someone who wants to win negotiations, whatever it is, you need to master this understanding of how consciousness works. And this goes way beyond personality typing, right? Like if you're in sales, you've probably done so many different personality types. You've probably done the test yourselves. You've maybe even tried to start applying that into your sales calls and things like that. And I went down that path too. That was my gateway into starting to understand human beings. But as I, went through and had like an hour conversation with over 3,000 people in my time, plus all of the coaching calls that I take on a regular basis as well, I gained so much knowledge and understanding of how other people process information, how they make decisions, and I also got a really awesome insight into what affects those decisions on a regular basis. Because, a person that I'm talking to now is obviously going to have a certain way of viewing the world and seeing things and making decisions, but in a year's time, they could be a completely different person at a higher level of consciousness. And the variables in which they are going to filter and make a decision from can completely change. And what I'm about to share is really the key that allowed me to start enjoying sales much more. Because I don't know about you, but if you've taken 3,000 fucking sales calls, it can be a fucking grind. I burnt myself out on that path. I was taking over 10 calls a day, and I wanted to find a more effective strategy so I could start taking less calls, when I was taking calls, I could filter people out more effectively, and I could actually deepen the connection with those that I was working with to enhance my level of life and work satisfaction and fulfillment. So let's get into the map of consciousness here. So if you're interested in this stuff, you've probably already maybe seen like the map of spirituality or the map of personal development and consciousness itself. But what it basically implies is that we got to understand that human beings are emotional creatures. You can't bypass that fact. And you can, as a guy, I was very much like this. I did not want to face off and start to understand like emotions or energy. I thought that was an indication of weakness. So I pretended to be very logically minded and making rash decisions all the time. But that's only because I was so blocked off from my emotions. I didn't know how to interpret them. I didn't know how to work with them. And I didn't know how to harness their power to advance myself as a human being in my own development. But what we need to really understand is that everyone is processing through an abundance of emotions all the fucking time. And if we're not taking into account the emotions that they're feeling through each step of their daily life and what they're experiencing on a call with us or in a negotiation, then we're basically just trying to throw shit against the wall and see what part sticks, right? Now, when we understand that we are emotional creatures and that we, no matter how logical you think you are, no matter how rational you think you are, you absolutely make decisions based on emotion. So the core sales principle is that we make decisions based on emotion and we justify with logic to make us feel like we're in control, to make us feel like we're making a good and smart, sound decision. Because the last thing that any of us want to do is make a dumb fucking decision. We've already made enough of them. We don't want to continue making them in our life. So therefore, we call upon our rational, logical mind to justify why we've made a decision. But if you want to humor this process, then just ask yourself, like with every decision that you make in your life, why do you do it? And you might be like, oh, it's a rational decision. I do it to make more money, or I do it to get healthier. And it's like, all right, well, why do you want to make more money? Well, I want freedom. Okay, well, what does freedom bring you in terms of a feeling? Well, being free would allow me to like not be stressed and relax a bit more, do what I want, to seek like acceptance or be validated by other people around me, to gain status in the world or something like that. But when you dig deeper through the layers and continue to ask yourself why you do anything, it's screened and it's, you'll pretend that there's a logical reason, but it's always based on an emotion, and it's either to avoid a certain emotion or to gain a certain emotion, to get away from pain and to get more towards pleasure at the end of the day. But some people like to make decisions to amplify their pain, but that's a subconscious pattern and program that we can discuss in another video another time. So knowing that We here are residing on planet Earth in the third dimension of consciousness because there's 12 within our known universe, right? We are, typically here, but our planet is going through a big transformation, right? It's going, and we're starting to vibrate higher. We're starting to increase our energetic frequency and our level of consciousness. We're becoming more aware of who we are and why we're here in the world. And what we're doing as a collective and as a planet is that we are rising up from the third dimension of consciousness to the fifth, okay? Now, you can see here that looking at the map of spirituality, everything's based on energy, which is emotions are basically energy in motion, right? So when we look at talking about energy and consciousness, we really got to analyze the emotions that we're feeling on a consistent basis. So if someone is residing where they're feeling amplified feelings of like shame, guilt, fear, anger, jealousy, where they're judging other people, well, that's going to hold their energetic vibration down at a lower level, okay? But like around the third dimension of consciousness, which is where they're going to be coming from a lower reactive state, a survival state. So when we look at the archetypes of who we're selling to, there's typically 3 archetypes in the world, and you can group them into pretty big categories, but I've inverted this triangle over here because the majority of humanity is in this level, right? You can just look out in the world and look at how many people are still very jealous, how many people are judging themselves and judging others, how many people live in survival of shame, guilt, fear, how many people are stressed out, busy as fuck just to like try and make some money to pay the bills and just get by, right? This is a survival mindset. This is a survival archetype where someone is so reactive to everything that's happening in their physical environment. And you'll know that you'll be able to identify someone in this state when they're always like stressed out, right? And they're almost like they're very anxious and kind of paranoid even. And you don't have to go to that extreme, but it's the undercurrent of stress and anxiety and overwhelm. And that triggers the survival mechanism within us to survive. Now, here's the interesting thing. When we're selling to someone in this state, you'll notice that a lot of survival and fear-based techniques are going to work on a sales call, on a landing page, on a sales page, whatever you're doing. When you evoke and start to trigger the survival stress that's already underlying within them, it's going to amplify it, and then they're going to make a decision to try and get away from that emotional state right away. Now, you'll notice that this selling technique works when you put scarcity on a sales page, or when you like have timers or limited availability, or you basically bring out the full arsenal of sales strategies and persuasive techniques and you just dump them all over a landing page or on a sales call, and they're probably going to convert, and more so if it's like low ticket. And the reason is because you're preying on their survival mechanism, right? And I don't advocate for this method at all. I don't like it at all myself. But when you look out into the world of like marketing and sales, you'll notice that most of the gurus that have succeeded in the past all have used this strategy and method because they're selling to people in a survival mode, a survival state, where they're scarcity minded and they're almost in a victim mentality, right? Now, there's nothing right or wrong with this. I'm not casting judgment on this. I'm just telling you how it is, right? And what has worked in the past, because in the past as a collective, we've been operating in this lower, denser energetic vibration. And the reason why I'm creating this video for you today is because we are changing, we are evolving as a human collective. And what worked a few years back is no longer going to work as effectively, especially if you're enhancing your level of consciousness and awareness using the same strategies and techniques and methods that worked for the gurus of the past or the people of the past who are teaching what they are now. It may not resonate with you anymore, right? You may not align with high pressure sales or these advanced sales tactics and methods that you read on a script just to try and manipulate people to get and buy your shit. And if it's no longer resonating, that's a great thing. But if you still want to utilize it, if you're at that level yourself and you want to utilize those tactics, feel free, go ahead, but I'm not going to be the one that's going to teach you all that stuff. I'm going to teach you a higher method, a higher, more conscious method of selling that you can utilize into your own business or endeavors with whatever you're doing. So that's survival. This is the lower self, right? But then as we come up here, as we come up to a higher state of consciousness, this is where you're going to find a lot of rational, logical people that, you know, in the survival state, the logical part of our mind, the prefrontal cortex that makes rational decisions, when you're in a survival state where the stress in your system is amplified, the prefrontal cortex goes fucking offline. It's hilarious. It's like, you know, when you're stressed, you make dumb fucking decisions. Most of the time, unless there's a bear and you're running away from it to survive, that would be a smart, sound decision. But when you're trying to make decisions to advance in your life, making decisions out of fear is never going to get you the result that you actually want. So the rational people who, you know, they have a level of security, stability in their life, and, you know, they're advancing in the way that they think about things and make decisions, they're going to be coming from a mental driven or a logically driven mentality. Logical. And this is where they're going to have a more balanced suite of emotions, where they're still going to, you know, feel these lower level emotions because we're human, we're all susceptible to them, but they're going to be better at managing them. They're going to be able to, you know, hopefully process through these emotions a little bit better and use their rational mind to make decisions that they want to get ahead in life, where they're able to kind of override their emotional system a little bit to try and be unbiased in their decision-making processes. But the problem that lies here is that while the mind is very well equipped to make amazing decisions sometimes, it's still not as well equipped as our intuitive sense, right? So at a higher level of mastery of the human vehicle, the human self, yourself, you will understand and start to notice that you have this intuitive system within you, this intuitive drive that is basically like your higher self nudging you in the right direction at all times. And that is connected. The voice that comes through, it's connected to your gut and your heart, right? So this is intuition. Intuitive. They're intuitive people. Now, with this graph, you'll notice that survival makes up the majority of the population. Then we've got the mid-tier, which is the logical-minded people, and there's nothing wrong with being anywhere on this spectrum because we're all on our own journey towards advancement and self-mastery, okay? But I'm gonna teach you how to apply this into what you're doing in business to create greater alignment, which is gonna skyrocket your success when you really master this stuff. And I'll continue on to talk about this more in later videos if you want. So if you do like what I'm talking about already and you want to hear more about this, then drop a comment in the comments below and let me know. Let me know what your feedback is, if you have questions, and what else you'd like to see come out on a continual basis in regards to this stuff, how it applies to sales, and I'd love to hear your feedback. But when we're looking at the intuitive, you'll notice that this is like the minority of the population, really. So here we've got the lower self, the rational self, and then the higher self. This is where the people that are more intuitive, instead of trying to look at their environment to understand, where they're looking at proof, the science, or, you know, in trying to understand our reality, instead they realize that the answers are within themselves. So they can return within and start to get a gauge on how their body feels. So if you're having a conversation, if you're sitting there right now, right, there's many of you that are going to be approaching this and you're going to be in survival mode, and that's totally fine. And it's probably not going to resonate with you that much if you are. Then there's going to be the logical-minded people that are sitting there and you're like, all right, Rhett, like this makes sense, but tell me a little bit more science about how this works. Give me some case studies for how this works. Show me the proof in the pudding and show me the roadmap and the method and blah, 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 blah. All the things to give you proof, because rational people need to see it to believe it, right? Whereas intuitive people are more like, if it feels right, I know it's right for me. They go on feeling, because your intuitive sense is the highest intelligence that you have within your human vehicle, within your mind-body-spirit complex, because it's connected to your higher self, which knows what is best for you in your own developmental journey. And the key with really applying this to sales is, number one, first and foremost, you've got to identify what your type is. You know, are you in survival mode right now? Because if you are, and you're trying to sell something, you're literally probably going to only attract people that are also in a similar state. And then you're just going to create more chaos and more mess with each other in a state of survival and anxiety and stress, right? Where you're all worked up, and because you're not going to be operating as your best, highest self when you're in this state. So for you, if you're in sales and you are in scarcity mode, where you don't have money coming in, where you're really doubting yourself, and don't worry, I've been here too, but I've been able to get out of it over time through personal mastery of your emotions. And if you are there, then instead of just trying to go and sell more right now, what I would do is analyze like what is creating those feelings within you, because our universe will give us what we vibrate, right? Our universe will mirror back to us what we're internally feeling, right? Because our internal state of being creates our external reality. So if we want a better external reality, if we want to start attracting amazing clients that are highly intelligent, that are driven, that are inspiring for us to work with, where we're having fun and joy and we're really thriving together, you've got to focus on yourself first. You've got to get there yourself energetically, because you can't sell to an intuitive person when you're in scarcity and lack mentality, because they're going to feel your energy, right? Even if it's on a fucking Zoom call across the world, they're going to feel you. And then they might not even consciously know it at the time. But if you're trying to use the tactics that work on yourself, the tripwires, the scarcity-driven, incentive-based pricing, or like the limited availability, if it's true, and it actually is true, it'll work. But if you're just artificially creating things to manipulate and persuade, no one up here is going to resonate with your stuff, right? But then as you start to work through your emotions and clear what you're holding on to, where you might not have money in your account right now, but know that, okay, if that's the case, well, get into a meditation. Start to feel for that energy. Be like, why do I fear not having money? Well, if I don't have money, I'm not going to be able to pay rent or food and pay the bills, and then I'm going to end up homeless. All right, well, humor that. Allow yourself to sit with that energy, that fear, because when you become one with it, and when you start becoming one with your fears instead of avoiding them, you integrate the energy. In other words, you learn the lesson required for you to get on to the next phase of life. And then your energy basically starts to increase in its vibration. Now you might start becoming a little bit more logical, where you're able to just take a breath and start to use your mind for planning and making more sound decisions in your life. But then if you're also in a logical place right now, well, know that everything that you do and everything that you create, if you prefer your logical mind, and I'm not saying that we're one or the other, because we have access to all of these energies, all of these states of being at all times. But typically, if you're a guy, it's most likely you are more logically minded. And if you're a female, you're naturally more gifted at your intuition. You're feeling your heart center. But guys are very mentally driven, because we typically are taught through childhood to not feel and to block our emotions from things. And when we do that, we sever the link between our mind and our heart. So as a guy, I would encourage you to understand where you're at and know that you're probably, you can try to sell to intuitive people, but you're probably not going to have too much luck, because an intuitive person is going to feel your energy and they're going to want you to match them energetically, right? But you can oscillate in and out of each one because they are different energies. But if you are in a logical place, then you want to construct your sales strategy to be logical. You need the case studies. You're going to need the proof. You're going to need the roadmap in place. You're going to need a specific method to show other logically minded people the process for how you get results. And those things are fine, but know that if you're logical, then probably design everything that you're doing in a logical manner to attract like-minded people, okay? And then if you're an intuitive, yes, you can still sell to logical people, but note that you're going to naturally attract other intuitives. That's really how it goes. And we all think that we're attracted to like-minded people that have similar interests and things like that. And yes, we are, but at a deeper level, we're attracted to other people's energies that are similar to ours. When we are vibrating at a certain frequency, we're going to attract others into our environment that are vibrating at a similar frequency. And, I'm not going to say that we shouldn't intermingle. We absolutely should, because logical people have so much to learn from intuitive people. And intuitive people can learn a fair bit from the way that you can equip and use your mind to plan and strategize in business, because that's absolutely essential. But the intuitives are going to always typically be greater aligned to their truth and their North Star, their compass, just naturally and more effectively. Whereas logical people, they're going to have to do a lot of mental processing to get to the point where they're willing and able to surrender their mind to listen to their heart's guidance for what they want to create in the world. So you'll notice on a sales call, right, now that you can start profiling the person that you're talking to, because people are going to come and probably like engage with your stuff at all different levels. But the key critical element is you've got to understand who you're talking to. So first, understand yourself. Secondly, understand what type of person are you speaking to. Now, if you're on a call, a sales call with a logical person, they're going to be filtering everything with their mind. They're going to be judging you at every step of the way. Is this the right fit? Do they have proof of results? Do they have case studies? Do they have a roadmap I can look at and analyze in great depth? Whereas a intuitive person is more so going to be like, what's your energy like? They're not going to ask you, they're going to feel it. And if your energy's off, if you get out of the present moment, in any moment on that call, you're going to lose them, because the intuitive person needs your presence. They need your full awareness in the moment. They need to feel connected to you in order to trust you. Whereas logically minded people, you can be a wordsmith. You can say the right things time and time again, and it's going to please the mind, and then they're going to, you're going to be able to sell them. But the intuitive, you can't use words to influence them as much, because it's all about how they feel. So if they feel like they're connected, like you're connected, like they like you, they trust you, then they're just going to be like, well, I don't need a case study. I don't need you to prove to me that this works for someone else, because I'm not someone else. I am me. Do I feel like this is an energetic match for me? Am I happy with where I am right now? And they're going to listen to their heart's guidance and be like, energetically, is this for me or not? And then they're going to get a feeling. And it's either going to be like something's off, and there's nothing you can say to convince them otherwise. But if it's right, they'll make a decision right away. They won't even think about it, because they'll just know. And if you're selling to me, that's how you sell to me, because I just know. I don't need to go in depth and analyze everything. It's like, if it feels right in the moment, I'll make a decision. I'll buy anything at any expense if it feels right for me at that point in time. You don't have to do the mental gymnastics with me, because I kind of just bypass that, because I can trust in my intuitions and my intuitive guidance. So I hope that this, for a first video, a first touch point on really explaining the link between consciousness and how you can sell, then I hope that really helps. But another reason why I wanted to create this video is because I was in the logical place for a very long time, and there was a lot that just wasn't really sitting with me. It wasn't sitting right, wasn't feeling right. And that's when I started to take a more intuitive approach to business, where, in the old day, I was creating business models that I knew without a doubt would work. That, it didn't necessarily have to sit well with me, but as long as I was getting results and I was producing results and, working my face off to do it, it was fine, because that's all I wanted at that point in time. But as I started to develop a little bit more and get more aware of myself and develop my intuition over time, a lot of the strategies and a lot of the models that I was building weren't really resonating with me anymore. They were falling out of alignment, because I was becoming someone new at a new energetic vibration. So if you're going through a similar transition, I want to encourage you to trust your gut, follow your heart, make sure that you're aligning yourself with doing what you love, because at that level, you cannot sell anything that you do not love, that you're not passionate about, that doesn't make you come alive, because it's going to feel inauthentic, ingenuine. And that is going to hijack your energetic frequency or your vibration, if you are doing anything that's out of alignment to you. And then you're not going to be as powerful to create results. But if you're wanting to take the jump into maybe pivoting a business model or pivoting your sales strategy, trust it, do it, and experiment. At the end of the day, who cares? Just go for it. And a lot of people, a lot of gurus would tell you that is the stupidest strategy in the world. You need to plan everything out first and foremost to make sure it's going to work. But you've got to try, you've got to experiment. So I'm not saying make a massive shift that's going to collapse and ruin your results right away, but start to test these waters, start to test this strategy out in following your heart's guidance if you're wanting to move more into that with something that feels better for you. And you'll find that when you do, you'll start attracting people that also operate and think the same way as you. So that can be really effective when wanting to start a new venture, is when you create it from alignment, you will then produce results that are in alignment to your highest path and higher self. So hopefully that has helped you guys so far. If, as I mentioned, if you want more videos around this topic in this discussion where we can get into the nuts and bolts and deeper detail for how to actually conduct these or this specific approach and how to apply it, then yeah, absolutely, I'll be more than happy to. I could talk about this stuff for hours. So that's going to be it from me. I do want to also note that we just created a brand new free community called the Renaissance, where you can basically jump into the community, you can ask me questions, you can jump on the free live United Mind sessions that we're running on a consistent basis as well, where you can do Q&A, ask me questions, ask questions that apply to you in your personal life. So if you're interested in this community of like-minded entrepreneurs and creators that are really wanting to mix things up and create a new way of doing things in the world, in business, in how we're approaching our lives, then click the link in the description below this and sign up for free. Create a free account and I'll be more than happy to connect with you in there. And yeah, I mean, that just really excites me. So it's not your standard free bullshit Facebook community. This is built on a really good platform with a really good thread and with really awesome individuals. So if that's up your alley, then I'll see you in there. But if not, I'll see you on the next YouTube video. All right, cheers guys.